Okay, y'all, that's why we're tired. That whole trip through an entire universe that we have been through together in just a couple months. Throughout the pandemic, I drove to our campus regularly, and when these pieces of art on the garage doors popped up, they began to lift my spirit. Audrey Ellison and her mom would put these on the door, and do still put these on the door every Wednesday over on Walker, and it's like having a conversation with a friend. I wanted to bring them to you today to remind us of all that we have been through in these weeks that we have just been through. We need to remember all that we have been through and that we are still here in our rightful place. Now, looking at these slides, you'll remember why you're tired. We're all getting very weary. We're tired of what has happened since the run up to the election 5 years ago as we prepared, and the years before that as expressions of hate began to grow more visceral around us. We're tired of denial as the signs of climate change now mark our falls and our landscapes every year. We're tired of the ways that the science that could be helping us face this unprecedented pandemic is discarded and discounted. We are tired of searching for the world we thought we were living in just a few short years ago and not quite knowing how to find a path back to it. Some of us, I know, are thinking that we're tired enough that we don't think we're going to vote, that we think the two choices, neither of them meet our ideals, and I would ask that if you're in this camp, you reconsider, for your idealism could literally cost another their life. Tired as we are of trying to hold all of this and to hold no matter what happens with this election, we will have work to do in this new judicial landscape. I want us to remember all that we've been through for these past 8 months, and then remember, too, as a people, that we have also survived wars and droughts and plagues of hate and restrictions of rights before. We have survived lean times and hard times, and we have been, as the late theologian Howard Thurman pointed out to the civil rights leaders of another time, we have reaped the fruits of trees whose planters did not get to see the harvest. Suffragette Susan B. Anthony did not get to see women have the vote. Universalist Aidan Ballou died before he knew that his ideas of how we could live together in community would inspire others. He thought they had been a failure, but they inspired many who came after him. Harvey Milk never got to see the breadth of equality that we now see and which we must all continue to act to keep in place. And those of African descent remind us that they have survived generation after generation by finding a way to make a way out of no way. All of this is with us now. And now we know that the fissures and the cracks that endanger our house and our neighborhoods and our society are there. They remain. And we know there are places we can rebuild on the rock-solid foundation of a widening view of justice. We need to name our fears. We need to remember that we can build forward, for we do have some reconstruction to do together. Author Naomi Klein puts it this way: our economic system and our planetary system are now at war. Or more accurately, our economy is at war with many forms of life on this earth, including human life. What the climate needs to avoid collapse is a contraction in humanity's use of its resources. What our economic model demands is to avoid collapse through unfettered expansion. Only one of these sets of rules can be changed, and it's not, she says, the laws of nature. One way to look at where we are is at the long arc of resistance that those who have tried to resist others have engaged in generation after generation. Right now, we have a very small, privileged group who have gained the most through these unnatural rules that we have propagated, and they are doing everything possible that they can to keep us where we are and return us, in fact, back to a time when power was even more closely held. To take away the the rights of others in the name of preserving a mythical, imperialist, paternalist time in which people like they ruled even more than they do now. And in the meantime, to pit us one against another, to divide and conquer, to keep things the same for their luxury and their privilege. We know that this kind of change does not come easy. Nelson Mandela, who endured decades behind bars because of his role in ending the apartheid system in South Africa, wrote many letters while he was imprisoned. In one, he was writing about his deep heartbreak. His son had been killed in an auto accident, and he was denied release to attend the funeral. And he said of the teachings of his scriptures at that time, they tell us of a way of life which would have brought peace and harmony many centuries ago if humankind had fully accepted and faithfully practiced the teachings they contain. We can still visualize, he said, a new world where there will be no wars, where famine, disease, and racial intolerance will be no more. Precisely the world I am fighting for. As to the poem about Jasmine, who is a third-generation MDUUCer, I want us to remember always that no matter how tired some of us may be, we need to hold ourselves most accountable to those who inherit this broken house. This faithful vision is building towards the horizon, towards planting and rebuilding for generations to come, some of the fruits of which some of us may not see, and yet we still must plant and build. For we have been here before, and we will be here again, again, and again. As our Unitarian ancestor Elizabeth Blackwell said, of the struggle that she was most engaged in, and which we are now engaged in again. If society will not admit of women's free development, then society must be remodeled. This relentless 2020 has taught us we are better together. So together, let us admit what we need to about how we are afraid and also how we are resolute. And our exhaustion doesn't need to come out as apathy. In the next few days, I implore you, please take care of your heart. Check in on your ideals and make sure you have a number you can call, especially on Tuesday night, which may feel like a very difficult time. Miranda and I will get you someone if you need someone. Join us for the spaces we will create together on Tuesday and Wednesday. And please, if you haven't done so, vote. Here are the things we now know that we didn't know 8 months ago. That we are very strong in ways we didn't know. And that we are very vulnerable in ways that we didn't know. That we need one another in ways we couldn't even imagine at the beginning of this year. And that we can love one another in ways we couldn't even conceive of at the beginning of this year. We ask today that you do what you need to do to take care of yourself and to take care of those who will come after us. Elandria Williams, the former co-moderator of the UUA who died last month too young, taught many of us a lot of things. E was a fierce organizer who had a vision of where we could go. E will not see this place herself, and yet she has done her piece to move it forward. E gave us the chant that we have based this service on today, and which we will also base next week's on as well. Please sing it with me. It doesn't have to be perfect. Solid as a rock, rooted as a tree, we are here, standing strong in our rightful place.